folks, Mark Joe here. I know it's been a while since I've uploaded any content on Mark Joe Music. I've been quite busy with work as a piano instructor. I'm also a music director for a local church, and on top of that, I'm also planning a live concert for the winter time. So I have a lot of projects going on in my personal life, and that's what has been, ironically enough, keeping me from uploading any content on Mark Joe Music. But rest assured, I'm trying my best to find the right balance so that I can be active and uploading regularly on the channel once more. But I'm here today to share with you something historic that happened around this time 10 years ago. I'm talking about Superstorm Sandy. Gosh, I can't believe that was that long ago. Over half of my students that I teach weren't born yet, or were way too young to remember the storm. That's how long it has been. And if you haven't known by now, yes, I am from New Jersey, born and raised all my life. So I was able to experience something just quite profound and unbelievable. And once again, I'm here to share with you just my firsthand experience of Superstorm Sandy. In this video, you will hear that, and I will also share with you personal footage documented from my old digital camera, the sights and sounds from that Halloween week 10 years ago. 2012. I had just begun college as a music major. It was my first semester, a semester where I was trying to move away from my high school self and develop the mature and responsible Mark Joe that you are seeing right now. I first heard about Sandy during a Thursday morning drive to class on the radio when the news anchor delivering the news for the top of the hour mentioned that there was a potential hurricane that was forecasted to affect the Northeast. And as the days went by and the models started to paint a clearer picture, Sandy was definitely going to barrel right into the mid-Atlantic region. But what we didn't know at the time was where exactly it was going to make landfall. Now keep in mind, folks, and tri-state people will know what I'm talking about, that the year before Sandy, we experienced Irene and a freak October snowstorm around Halloween. So there was a lot of people that were certainly on edge from those two storms. And it was quite incredulous that we would have those kind of weather events back to back to back. It was almost like the 2011 storms were the appetizer for Sandy.
We're looking at an unprecedented storm, a storm that's going to be huge and powerful and will be high impact in the tri-state area. This is not a question of, is it going to go out to sea anymore? This is going to very well have a big-time impact, if not a direct impact on the tri-state area in terms of landfall. You see the storm right now? It doesn't look so much like a hurricane anymore. It's a little lopsided. It has weakened a little bit today, but, weak is nothing we're going to really associate with Sandy going forward. Winds are down to 75 miles an hour, but notice it's slowed. It's almost just sitting, going to wait for some reinforcements. It'll start to act upon a movement up to the north as it starts to feel the influences of other weather systems around it. A wind maybe at 65 miles an hour on Sunday, maybe going down to tropical storm status, but then it starts to interact. I mean, how many times you see a tropical storm going into colder waters and then maybe regaining hurricane status because it's interacting with this very strong front coming from the west? I mean, look at this sharp turn. I mean, even just to forecast that and to see all of our weather charts showing that is just remarkable. One thing we've noticed this afternoon, number one, we continue to focus on the central and southern New Jersey and the Delaware Bay. The other thing is the turn offshore may take a little longer, allowing us to push the brunt of the storm Monday night rather than maybe Monday afternoon. So we may have to push that down just a little bit. But you can see here, if you take a landfall, it would be sometime Tuesday morning. Just looking at this track, look at the projected rainfall totals in and around the track. You're talking double digits. Look at the 9 and 10 inch amounts, and look at how that's over central and southern New Jersey, south and west of New York City, something we have to watch out for. Maybe one saving grace, if this is the track that happens, that the actual rainfall in the Hudson Valley and Connecticut may be down a little bit, but I still would have to allow for 3 to 6 inches of rain. So it's a high impact historic storm heading our way. The first showers arrive Sunday, but the brunt will not be until late Monday now into Tuesday. Major coastal flooding, 80-mile-per-hour gusts, heavy rain, beach erosion. It has everything but snow. There's snow well to our west. We have planners for you to take.
By that weekend of October 27th and 28th, the sky was overcast and the wind was picking up. This footage that you're seeing now was taken from a local park overlooking a bay, and it was quite gusty when I filmed this. Note that the big rocks were there to prevent the storm surge from penetrating the higher ground as much as it can. Spoiler alert, it did, but at quite the cost. I never took footage of the park post-Sandy, but from what I heard, the park did sustain considerable damage. Fortunately, though, the inner houses in that area were spared from any real big-time damage. On October 29th, the rain bands came ashore. It didn't look too bad out there at the time. It looked like a typical nor'easter. The wind was whipping, but not damaging. But as the afternoon wore on, conditions only got worse, and as the wind got stronger, so did the swaying of the trees and the chances of getting a power outage. By around 5 p.m., the power did go out in my house. In the days leading up to the storm, my dad purchased an oil and gas-powered generator by a company named Predator, and before sundown, we were able to put it on the deck, and that allowed us to at least get a lamp and, more importantly, the refrigerator working. By nightfall, the rain was an afterthought, unless you were living in South Jersey. There were no drenching downpours whatsoever where I was. It was all just about the wind. A friend texted me that night informing me that Sandy just became extratropical right before landfall, so not considered a hurricane, but that still didn't take away the severity and the magnitude of what we were experiencing at that moment. And one of the most haunting sounds of that storm had to be hearing the wind whipping and howling while the generator outside was continuing to crank power into the house. The wind was definitely tropical storm force sustained with hurricane force gusts. And when it was time to go to bed, we stopped the generator, and all you can hear was that continuous roar of wind in a dark neighborhood with no power.
Okay, it's about 9 o'clock p.m. and the winds have been the strongest they have been. I mean, this thing is hitting us head on. I'm gonna open this door and I'm gonna let you listen. The winds outside are at least 60 to 65 miles an hour sustained, with gusts going probably above 90 miles an hour. I shined a flashlight outside where the generator is, and part of my neighbor's fence collapsed. You could see some of my generator here, but I don't think I could capture. I don't think I could capture the fence. But when I survey the damage tomorrow, I will. that's a strong gust right there. I'm sure you could also make out whistling. Okay. I know, right?
I have to wait.
We'd have to use the wheel.
And just go there in the ground.
The next day, all was calm. The sky was still overcast, and the ground still wet. It was time to survey the damage. While it certainly did not look apocalyptic like you would see down in the southern states like Florida, Louisiana, or in the Caribbean, it was still surreal. It was surreal to think that this was ever possible, to see something like this happen in the Northeast. We couldn't believe what laid in front of our eyes. I walked throughout my neighborhood and saw plenty of fences down, some panels torn off houses, and trees uprooted. Once again, relatively minor, unless you lived in places like Asbury or Seaside Heights, which totally got destroyed. This was all new, and to New Jerseyans, this was just something that was very tough to process and swallow, and to deal with a reality like this. As I made my way to the main road of town, the damage was more substantial, as there was power lines down and bigger trees that go 40, 50 feet in the air, all toppled down like dominoes. And here are the pictures in the video that show it all.
Part of a fence got knocked down right here. This is my neighbor's fence. You can see some of the lawn chairs have blown over. Wow. Yeah, this is gonna take some time to repair. There's live wire. There's two of them too. this I'm driving on is mud, you know, so definitely this place flooded, no doubt about it.
Depending on where you lived, power was either out for a very short time or a very long time. For me, power got knocked out for 9 days, which meant going to the gas station and filling up a 5-gallon fuel container. A combination of the nearby gas stations out of operation due to a lack of power and people also wanting to fill up fuel containers meant very, very, very long lines of cars going to one fully functional station, such as this. I wish I could go on and on about my experience with Superstorm Sandy. All of what you just heard is just some of the notable memories I had from the storm. But even if I were to write a novel about this storm, it's never going to do justice compared to the first-hand real experience. As of this year, Sandy remains as the 6th costliest hurricane in U.S. history, with damages totaling $68.7 billion in 2012 U.S. dollars, with 233 fatalities. It affected every state along the eastern seaboard, with most of the damage in New Jersey and New York. 10 years later, and the memories are still fresh, and unfortunately there's still plenty of people that have not yet recovered from the storm, financially and emotionally. Since Hurricane Sandy, our state has been hit with other tropical systems, from Henri and Isaias 2 years ago, and Hurricane Ida's remnants last year. It makes you wonder, are we ready for the next megastorm? I'll let you decide that for your own. Well, thank you everyone for allowing me to share my story as we reflect on 10 years since Sandy. If you would like to share your own personal account of the storm, please do so in the comments below. But remember to keep any discussions civil and respectful. Until next time, this is Mark Joe saying so long.